Admiral Hyon-Soo Park was drinking his morning coffee when the universe changed forever. He stood on the bridge of Luna Defense Station, watching Earth slowly turn below them. It was a peaceful Tuesday morning, just like any other. Then space itself seemed to tear open. Massive ships emerged from nowhere. They were bigger than anything humans had ever built. Dark metal hulls stretched for kilometers, covered in strange symbols that hurt to look at. There were 12 of them, arranged, in a perfect formation that screamed military precision. "Sir," Ensign Da-hai called from her station. "We're getting a transmission. It's coming from all of them at once." Hyon-Soo set down his coffee. His hand was steady, but his heart was racing. "Put it on screen." The face that appeared was not human. Reptilian features, golden eyes that seemed to look right through him, and skin that shifted colors like oil on water. When it spoke, the words came in perfect English, though the mouth movements didn't match. "I am High Inquisitor Thekvar of the Galactic Council. You will listen carefully, as I will not repeat myself." The bridge went silent. Every person stopped what they were doing. This was it. First contact. The moment every human had wondered about. Your species has been observed for 73 of your years. We have watched your expansion beyond your birth world. We have seen your weapons, your conflicts, your chaotic political systems. The Council has classified humanity as a Category 7 threat species. Hyon-Soo felt cold sweat on his forehead. Category 7 didn't sound good. Such classifications require immediate action, Thekvar continued. You have 72 standard hours to submit to Council authority. Failure to comply will result in corrective measures. This is not a negotiation. This is an ultimatum. The transmission cut off. The bridge stayed silent for a long moment. "Ensign," Hyon-Soo said quietly, "get me a direct line to the President." On Earth, President Ki-Woo-nam was having lunch with his daughter when his emergency phone rang. The phone that only rang when the world was ending. He answered on the first ring. "Mr. President," came Admiral Park's voice. "We have a situation. Aliens. They want us to surrender." Ki-Woo almost dropped the phone. "I'll be right there." Within an hour, the Situation Room was full. Defense Secretary Bo-Ram Choi looked like she hadn't slept in days, though the crisis was only hours old. Head of Space Command Taijin Lee kept checking his tablet, hoping the readings were wrong. Chief Science Officer So-Young Kim just stared at the photos of alien ships with her mouth open. "Options?" Ki-Woo asked. "Not many good ones," Bo-Ram replied. "These ships are huge. Our scans show technology we don't understand. Energy weapons that could probably vaporize our entire fleet." "What exactly do they want?" So-Young asked. Taijin pulled up the full transmission. They all watched as Thekvar delivered his ultimatum again. This time he went into more detail about the Council's terms. Complete disarmament of all military forces. Dissolution of national governments in favor of Council administration. Relocation of 80% of your population to designated worlds for integration into Council society. The remaining 20% will serve as planetary caretakers. Under Council supervision. The room erupted in angry voices. Bo-Ram slammed her hand on the table. "They want to scatter us across the galaxy like seeds." "It's not just control," So-Young said quietly. "It's the end of humanity as we know it." Ki-Woo raised his hand for silence. "What's their timeline?" 72 hours, Taijin replied. Then they start what they call corrective measures, which means? We don't know. But given the size of those ships, probably nothing good. Ki-Woo stood up and walked to the window. Outside, people were going about their normal lives, shopping, working, playing with their children. They had no idea that 12 alien ships were deciding their fate. "Get me Ambassador Wu Jin Han," he said. "If they want an official response, they'll get one." 6 hours later, Ambassador Han stood in the UN General Assembly building. Every screen in the world was watching. Behind him sat representatives from every nation on Earth. In front of him was a camera that would broadcast humanity's answer to the stars. Han was a small man with gray hair and kind eyes. He had spent 30 years in diplomacy, handling everything from trade disputes to war crimes. But this was different. This was bigger than any human conflict. He cleared his throat and began to speak. High Inquisitor Thekvar, representatives of the Galactic Council, people of Earth, I stand before you today as a representative of humanity. We have heard your ultimatum. We have considered your terms. He paused, looking directly into the camera. We appreciate the offer, but we'll have to decline. That was it. No grand speech about freedom or independence, no angry threats or desperate pleas. Just a polite refusal, delivered like he was turning down dinner plans. Up on Luna Station, Admiral Hyun-Soo watched the transmission with his crew. When Han finished speaking, the bridge was quiet again. Sir, Ensign Dahai said, we're getting another transmission from the alien fleet. This time, Thekvar looked different. His golden eyes were wider, and his skin was shifting faster between colors. Did you just refuse the Council's generous offer of integration? He asked. Ambassador Han, still live on every channel, nodded politely. That's correct. While we're honored by your attention, we prefer to manage our own affairs. Thekvar's mouth opened and closed several times without sound. Finally, he managed to speak. You do not understand. This was not a request. This was an inevitability. No species has ever refused Council integration. Han smiled slightly. Well, there's a first time for everything. The transmission cut off abruptly. On Earth, in the Situation Room, the leadership watched their screens showing the alien fleet. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the ships began to move. They're repositioning, Taejin reported. Battle formations. Boram looked at President Kiwoo. Sir, your orders? Kiwoo thought about his daughter, about all the children on Earth who deserved to grow up free. He thought about every human who had ever fought for the right to choose their own path. Send the signal, he said quietly. Wake up the real fleet. In the depths of space, hidden among asteroids and in the shadows of gas giants, systems began to activate. Humanity's true strength was about to be revealed. The aliens thought they knew what humans were capable of. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Commander Jae-sung. Oh stood on the bridge of the mining station turned fortress known as Kepler Station. Around him his crew worked with the focused intensity of people who knew they were about to die. The Council fleet approaching them was massive, 30 ships against his small defense force. Sir, called his tactical officer Young-Soo Lee, enemy fleet will be in weapons range in 10 minutes. Jae-sung nodded. His fleet consisted of 12 mining ships, 8 converted cargo haulers, and 3 actual military vessels. On paper, it was hopeless. But humans had never been good at following what was written on paper. Launch the miners, he ordered. What the Council saw as the humans launched their attack was pure chaos. Mining ships that should have been fleeing instead charged straight at the alien fleet. Cargo haulers moved in erratic patterns that made no tactical sense. The few military ships seemed to be following a completely different battle plan. Admiral Zelmoth of the Council fleet watched from his flagship with growing confusion. What are they doing? This isn't warfare. This is madness. His tactical computer kept trying to analyze human movements and failing. The patterns made no sense. Ships would break formation for no reason, attack from impossible angles, and ignore proper targeting priorities. Sir, his weapons officer reported, the mining ships are launching something. Not weapons, it looks like. Mining charges. Zelmoth watched as hundreds of small explosives spread through space between the fleets. Mining charges designed to break up asteroids, now floating in a massive cloud. Insignificant, he said. Those charges can't penetrate our shields. That's when the human cargo haulers opened fire. Not at the Council ships, but at their own mining charges. The explosives detonated in a chain reaction that lit up space like a miniature star. But, more importantly, the explosions created a debris field that scattered metal fragments at high velocity in all directions. Council shields were designed to stop focused energy weapons. They weren't designed to stop thousands of small pieces of metal moving at tremendous speeds. The first Council ship lost its shields in seconds as debris sandblasted its protective barriers. Impossible, Zelmoth breathed. They're using industrial equipment as weapons. Lieutenant Youngmi Bay was having the time of her life. Her fighter, the Grim Reaper, was humanity's latest secret weapon. A small, fast ship equipped with an AI that had learned to think like a human pilot. AI, give me something creative, she said as 3 council fighters moved to intercept her. Initiating pattern 77 Alpha, the AI replied in a cheerful voice. Warning, this maneuver has a 60% chance of causing pilot unconsciousness. Do it. The Grim Reaper suddenly flipped end over end while continuing to move forward, firing in all directions. The maneuver was impossible for any normal fighter, but Young Mi's ship had been designed by people who grew up watching action movies and playing video games. The council fighters, programmed for logical combat maneuvers, couldn't process what they were seeing. 2 of them collided while trying to track her impossible movement pattern. Woo! Young Mi shouted as she spun through space upside down, still firing. I want to do that again. Negative. Pilot is already showing signs of G-force stress. Also, we're out of missiles. Then let's ram something. Back on Kepler Station, Commander Jae-sung watched his impossible battle plan actually work. The council fleet was larger and more advanced, but they fought like they were following a textbook. Humans fought like they were trying to survive. Sir, Young-soo called out, council flagship is hailing us. Admiral Zelmoth's face appeared on screen. He looked like someone had just explained that gravity worked upside down. What are you doing? He demanded. This isn't warfare. You're turning space combat into a fight, Jae-sung suggested helpfully. You're using mining equipment as weapons. You're ramming our ships with cargo haulers. Your fighters are performing maneuvers that should kill their pilots. Jae-sung shrugged. War isn't about pretty formations, Admiral. It's about making the other guy stop shooting at you. We're pretty good at that. On Earth, engineer Dongwoo Choi was putting the finishing touches on Project Overkill. Around him, his team worked frantically to complete humanity's answer to superior alien technology. How much time do we have? Asked his assistant, Miran Seo. Council main fleet will be here in 18 hours, Dongwoo replied. We need to be ready. Miran looked at the massive device they were building. Are you sure this will work? Dongwoo grinned. No, but that's never stopped us before. Project Overkill wasn't elegant. It wasn't advanced. It was a massive railgun built from mining equipment, powered by every fusion reactor on the planet, and designed to fire a projectile the size of a small building. The projectile itself was filled with every piece of nuclear waste humanity had produced in the last century. The aliens have better technology, Dongwoo explained to the engineers. But we have better ideas. If we can't out-tech them, we'll out-crazy them. The device was aimed not at the council fleet, but at a specific point in space where computer models predicted they would be in exactly 17 hours and 43 minutes. What if they change course? Miran asked. Then we built a really expensive space sculpture, Dongwoo admitted. But council doctrine says they won't. They're too predictable. High Inquisitor Thekvar was no longer calm. His skin had been shifting through angry reds and frustrated purples for hours. The reports from the colony attacks were impossible to believe. How many ships have we lost? He asked Kyle Tar. 47 destroyed, 23 damaged beyond repair, his aide replied quietly. Against mining stations and cargo ships? The humans. They don't fight like anyone else, sir. They use everything as a weapon. One of their freighters was actually carrying a black hole generator. Thekvar's eyes went wide. A black hole generator? That's a planet-killer weapon. They used it to create a gravity well that pulled 3 of our ships together, then detonated it. The humans called it going bowling. Thekvar felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries. Doubt. The Council had conquered 800 species over 1,000 years. Every single one had fought the same way. Organized fleets, logical tactics, surrender when faced with overwhelming force. Humans didn't seem to understand the concept of overwhelming force. They just kept fighting with whatever they had. Sir, the communications officer called. We're getting a transmission from Earth. This time it wasn't Ambassador Han. It was a woman in military uniform with general's stars. She looked tired but determined. "I'm General Hyojin An," she said. "I've been asked to explain something to you." HFY leaned forward. "Explain what?" "You wanted to see what humanity does when threatened," General An said. "What you've seen so far? This is us being nice. We haven't even started the war crimes yet." The transmission cut off, leaving HFY staring at a blank screen. Around him, his bridge crew worked in nervous silence. "Sir," Kyle said quietly, "perhaps we should reconsider our approach." HFY's skin flashed through several colors before settling on a determined gold. "No. Deploy the main fleet. All of it. We'll show these humans what real power looks like." What he didn't know was that Captain Seokjin Ryu was already aboard one of his ships. The human boarding party had used a delivery drone disguised as space debris to attach themselves to the Council flagship's hull. Now they were cutting their way inside with tools that made the aliens' security systems look like children's toys. "Remember?" Seokjin whispered to his team. "We're not here to destroy the ship, we're here to take it home." The Council was about to learn that humans didn't just fight differently. They thought differently about what it meant to win. High Inquisitor HFY stared at the data screen in his command chamber. The humans had refused. Actually refused. In 800 years of Council expansion, no species had ever said no to integration. "Sir," his aide, Sub-Commander Kieltar, approached carefully. "Perhaps we should review the human files again?" HFY's skin flashed red with irritation. "There's nothing to review. They're primitives. Look at their technology ratings." He pulled up humanity's file on the main display. The numbers were clear. Humans had barely achieved fusion power. Their fastest ships took months to travel between their own planets. Their weapons were crude chemical explosives and simple energy beams. They haven't even unified their planet. Under one government, HFY continued. How can scattered tribes pose any threat to the Council? What the Council didn't know was that Captain Da Hai Sung was watching them right back. Her ship, the Silent Runner, hung invisible in space, just a few kilometers from the alien fleet. Human stealth technology wasn't fancy, but it worked. While the aliens looked for advanced energy shields, Da Hai's ship was simply painted black and running silent. "Getting good readings on their hull composition," reported her science officer, Tae-wook Min. "Their armor is strong, but it's designed to stop energy weapons. Kinetic impact might work better." Da Hai nodded. "What about their formation flying?" "Very precise, very predictable. They move like they're following a computer program." Through her telescope, Da Hai watched the alien ships maintain perfect distances from each other. Every movement was calculated, every position exact. It looked impressive, but to human eyes it looked like a weakness. "They fight like they're playing chess," she murmured into her radio. "Send that back to command." On Mars, General Minho Kang was not playing chess. He was playing poker, and he had been bluffing for decades. While Earth maintained minimal defenses that alien scouts could see, the real human military was hidden, where no one would look. The asteroid belt wasn't just rocks and mining stations. Hidden among the tumbling stones were weapons platforms that could level cities. The gas giants didn't just have research stations. They had shipyards building vessels that existed in no official records. "Operation Playground is ready," reported his deputy, Colonel Yoon-hee-yu. "All hidden assets are online and waiting for orders." Minho looked at the tactical display showing the real human fleet. Thousands of ships that the aliens had never seen. Weapons that had been tested in secret for 20 years. Soldiers who had trained for this exact scenario. "How long do we make them wait?" Yoon-hee asked. "Let them get comfortable first," Minho replied. "Overconfident enemies make mistakes." In her laboratory on Europa, Dr. Yoonji Lim was explaining humanity's greatest advantage to a room full of military planners. Behind her, a hologram showed battle simulations. "Every Council species fights the same way," she said. "Central Command gives orders. Ships follow those orders exactly. It's efficient, but it's predictable." She changed the display to show human military doctrine. "Humans fight differently. We give our people objectives, not orders. We let them figure out how to achieve those objectives. What looks like chaos to the aliens is actually organized flexibility." A general raised his hand. What if they adapt to our tactics? Dr. Lim smiled. That's the beautiful part. By the time they figure out what we're doing, we'll be doing something else. Human creativity isn't a bug in our system. It's a feature. Back on the Council flagship, Thekvar was growing more irritated by the hour. The humans weren't responding to his follow-up messages. They weren't frantically preparing defenses, they were just continuing their normal lives. Sir, Kyltar reported, our sensors show increased communication traffic between human colonies, but no military buildup. Of course not, Thekvar said. They have no real military to build up. Deploy the suppression fleets to their 12 largest colonies. A show of force will bring them to their senses. The Council doctrine was simple. When a species refused integration, you demonstrated superior firepower. Most species surrendered after seeing one of their cities disappear. The few that didn't were easily conquered by overwhelming technological advantage. 12 Council fleets departed for human colonies. Each fleet was commanded by a different species, all following the same tactical manual. They expected to find frightened civilians and token resistance. Instead, they found empty colonies and activated defense grids. The first fleet arrived at Kepler Station expecting to see a research outpost with maybe a few hundred scientists. What they found was a massive military base with the population evacuated and weapon systems coming online. Sir, the fleet commander's sensor operator called out. I'm reading weapon signatures all around us. How is this possible? Before the commander could answer, the humans opened fire. But these weren't the primitive weapons the Council expected. Railguns fired projectiles at significant fractions of light speed. Missiles that looked simple on the outside carried warheads that bent space-time. Laser arrays that should have been impossible with human technology carved through alien shields like they weren't there. Evasive maneuvers, the commander ordered. But the Council ships, designed for precise formation fighting, were too slow to adapt. Human weapons had been designed by people who grew up playing video games, who thought in 3 dimensions, who understood that space battles weren't about honor, they were about winning. The first Council ship to die was the CNS Dominator. A human missile, disguised as space debris, activated at the last second and punched through its hull. The explosion lit up space for light minutes in every direction. Similar scenes played out at 11 other human colonies. Council fleets that had expected easy victories found themselves fighting desperate battles against enemies that refused to follow proper tactics. On Earth, in the Situation Room, reports came flooding in. President Kiwu watched the tactical displays with growing amazement. Kepler Station reports 3 enemy ships destroyed, 2 damaged, Taejin reported. New Shanghai colony says they've disabled an entire squadron. Casualties on our side? Boram asked. Surprisingly light. The aliens seem confused by our defensive strategies. Kiwu nodded. Humanity had spent centuries fighting each other. They had learned hard lessons about warfare that peaceful species never had to face. Every human child grew up playing war games. Every human culture had stories about underdogs defeating superior enemies. Sir, So Young spoke up, we're getting a transmission from the alien fleet. This time, Thekvar looked less composed. His skin was shifting rapidly between colors and his golden eyes were narrow with anger. Impossible, he said. Your technology readings show primitive capabilities. How are you destroying Council ships? Ambassador Han, still serving as humanity's voice, appeared calm as ever. I'm not sure what you mean. We're simply defending ourselves. You're using weapons that shouldn't exist. Han shrugged. Innovation is a human specialty. We tend to find creative solutions to problems. Thekvar's image flickered with rage. This changes nothing. You've destroyed a few ships through trickery, but you cannot stand against the full might of the Council. We'll see, Han replied mildly. The transmission ended. On the bridge of Luna Station, Admiral Hyun-Soo allowed himself a small smile. The aliens were learning what every human military academy taught in the first week. Plans never survive contact with the enemy, especially when the enemy is human. High Inquisitor Thekvar had made his decision. The humans would burn. Standing in his command chamber, he activated the Council's most terrible weapon, the Final Solution Protocol, planet-killer devices that could turn worlds into ash. Target. Earth, he commanded. Full sterilization pattern. Around him, his crew moved with grim efficiency. The humans had embarrassed the Council enough. No more games, no more mercy. The planet would die, and with it, the chaos that humanity represented. Weapons charging, reported his gunnery officer, targeting Earth's major population centers. But, before Thekvar could give the final order, space around his fleet exploded into light and metal. Fleet Admiral Sunmi Park had been waiting for this moment. From her command center deep inside a hollowed-out asteroid, she watched the Council fleet move into position. They were right where human computers had predicted they would be. Activate Sol Defense Grid, she ordered. Across the solar system, hidden platforms emerged from their camouflage. They had been disguised as asteroids, space debris, even dead satellites. For decades, humanity had been turning their entire star system into a fortress, and no one had noticed. The Council fleet suddenly found themselves surrounded, not by ships, but by automated weapons platforms that appeared from everywhere at once. Hundreds of them, each one powered by fusion reactors and armed with weapons that human engineers had spent 20 years perfecting. "Sir," the Council sensor operator called out in panic, "I'm reading weapons signatures from all directions. How is this possible?" Thekvar stared at his displays in shock. Where moments before there had been empty space, now there were weapons platforms pointing at his fleet from every angle. It was like the solar system itself had come alive and turned hostile. "They turned their entire star system into a weapon," he whispered. "That's when Captain Junho Kim deployed humanity's most terrifying creation. From hidden bases in the asteroid belt, sleek ships emerged. They moved differently than any human vessel the Council had seen before. These ships flowed through space like living things, adjusting their formation constantly, learning from each engagement. "What are those?" Thekvar demanded. His tactical officer's voice shook as he answered. "Sir, they appear to be autonomous war machines, self-replicating. Each one is adapting to our responses in real time. The human wolves were everything the Council feared about humanity made manifest. They didn't follow orders from a central command. Instead, they operated with pack intelligence, sharing information instantly and adapting their tactics faster than any organic mind could follow." Dr. Hee-Jin An watched the battle from Earth's command center. Around her, military officers coordinated the most complex battle in human history. But her attention was focused on the psychological profile of the enemy. "They're breaking," she announced. "Look at their formation." On the displays, the Council fleet was beginning to show cracks. Ships that had maintained perfect formation for hours were starting to drift. Some were firing at targets that weren't there. Others had stopped responding to orders entirely. "How can you tell?" asked General Bo Kyung-nam. "Because they're not fighting a war anymore," Dr. An explained. "They're fighting a nightmare. Everything they thought they knew about warfare is wrong, and their minds are struggling to process it." She opened a channel to the Council fleet. When Thekvar's face appeared on screen, she could see the fear in his golden eyes. "You wanted to see what humanity does when threatened," she said calmly. "This is us being nice. We haven't even started the war crimes yet." Commander Seokjin Ryu was having a very different kind of battle. His boarding party had successfully infiltrated the Council flagship, but what they found inside was beyond their expectations. "Sir," whispered Corporal Young-hoon Jang, "these corridors are massive. Everything is built for beings twice our size." Seokjin nodded. The Council ship was a maze of oversized passages and chambers designed for species much larger than humans. But that gave his team an advantage. They could move through maintenance shafts and service tunnels that the aliens couldn't fit into. "Remember the mission," he told his team. "We're not here to destroy this ship. We're here to capture it intact." The boarding party carried weapons that looked impossibly advanced to alien eyes, but were actually quite simple. Portable black hole generators no bigger than a briefcase. Gravity hammers that could crush a tank into a marble. Weapons that humans had developed by asking a simple question: what if we weaponize physics itself? Contact Front, called Sergeant Yoon Young Park as alien security forces rounded a corner. The fight that followed would have been impossible to believe. Human soldiers using gravity weapons to walk on walls and ceilings, portable black holes that swallowed enemy fire, and tactical coordination that seemed to border on telepathy. The aliens fought like they had been trained, taking cover, establishing fields of fire, calling for backup. The humans fought like they were having fun. "Grenade!" Young Hoon called out, tossing a device down the corridor. The explosion that followed didn't produce fire or shrapnel. Instead, it created a localized gravity storm that sent aliens tumbling in all directions, helpless against forces they couldn't understand. Within an hour, Seok Jin's team had fought their way to the ship's command center. What they found there changed everything. "Sir," breathed Yoon Young as she stared at the alien computers. "You need to see this." The data they discovered was horrifying. The Council wasn't just conquering species. They were systematically destroying everything that made those species unique. Genetic modification to remove aggression, brain surgery to eliminate independent thought, cultural programs designed to erase history and tradition. They're not building an empire, Seok Jin realized. They're creating a galaxy of slaves. Lieutenant, Ji-won Seo was having better luck interrogating the Council's strategic AI. The alien computer had been designed to coordinate fleet movements across thousands of star systems. It was incredibly advanced, but it had one weakness. It was programmed to be helpful. "Show me Council expansion protocols," she commanded. The AI, unable to distinguish between authorized and unauthorized users, began displaying classified information. What Ji-won saw made her sick, species after species all following the same pattern. Contact, ultimatum, conquest, integration. But integration didn't mean joining the Council as equals. It meant having everything that made them who they were surgically removed. "How many species have you processed?" she asked. 847 successful integrations, the AI replied cheerfully. 0 failures until encountering humanity. What happened to the ones who resisted? Sterilization protocols were applied. No trace remains of their existence. Ji-won felt cold rage building in her chest. The Council hadn't been bringing peace to the galaxy. They had been committing genocide on a scale that defied imagination. "Send this data to Earth immediately," she ordered her communications officer. "Everyone needs to see this." Back on Earth, President Ki-woo Nam watched the intelligence reports pour in. Each revelation was worse than the last. The Council had wiped out entire civilizations simply for refusing to surrender their identity. "Sir," Admiral Tae-jin Lee reported, "we're receiving surrender requests from 17 Council species. They're asking for human protection." Ki-woo wasn't surprised. Word was spreading through Council space that humanity was fighting back successfully. Species that had been enslaved for centuries were beginning to remember what freedom felt like. "Grant them," he ordered, "and broadcast this data to every inhabited system in the galaxy. Let everyone see what the Council really is." High Inquisitor. Thekvar watched his empire crumble in real time. The humans hadn't just defeated his fleets. They had exposed the truth about Council rule. Across the galaxy, species that had been integrated for generations were rising in rebellion. "Sir," Kyle Tar reported, "we're losing contact with entire sectors. The uprising is spreading faster than we can contain it." Thekvar's skin had turned a pale, sickly color. "How is this possible? The integration process is perfect. They can't rebel." "Apparently," Kyle Tar said quietly, "humans have been teaching them how." That's when the final blow came. Captain Seok-jin Ryu's voice echoed through the Council flagship's communication system. "Attention Council forces. This is Commander Seok-jin, Ryu of the Human Defense Force. I am now in control of your flagship. You have 10 minutes to surrender before I demonstrate what humans do with captured enemy vessels." Thekvar stared at his screens in disbelief. Humans had not only boarded his flagship, they had captured it. The pride of the Council fleet was now in human hands. "What do they plan to do with it?" he whispered. Kieltar checked the sensor readings and paled. Sir, they're attaching some kind of device to our main reactor. On the human command frequency, Seokjin's voice was cheerful. This is the CNS domination, now under new management. We're going to give you a demonstration of human engineering. Watch and learn. The Council flagship began to glow with an energy, signature that no alien technology could produce. The humans weren't just capturing Council ships, they were improving them. High Inquisitor Thekvar stood in his private chamber, staring at reports that made no sense. Half the galaxy was in open rebellion. Species that had been pacified for centuries were somehow fighting back. And at the center of it all were the humans. How did we get this so wrong? He asked his reflection. The door chimed and Dr. Vexenara entered. The Council's chief xenobiologist looked exhausted. Her usually perfect scales were dull, and her movements seemed sluggish. I have the analysis you requested, she said, setting down a data pad. About human psychology. Thekvar picked up the pad and began reading. What he saw there shook him to his core. They're not just predators, Dr. Vexenara explained. They're persistence predators. On their homeworld, humans would chase prey for days until it collapsed from exhaustion. They never give up. That explains their tactics, Thekvar muttered. It gets worse. They're also pack hunters who coordinate without central command. Each individual can make independent decisions while still working toward group goals. And they're tool users who turn everything into a weapon. Thekvar set down the pad. What are you saying? I'm saying we picked a fight with a species that has been practicing warfare for 10,000 years. Not as a profession, but as entertainment. On Earth, Professor Changmin Li was giving a very different briefing. Around the table sat representatives from 12 alien species, refugees who had escaped Council pacification programs. The question you're all asking, he said, is how humans fight so differently from everyone else. The alien representatives leaned forward. Some had been fleeing Council forces for decades. Others had only recently learned what the Council really was. The answer is simple, Changmin continued. Every human child plays war games. Every human culture has warrior traditions. We've been practicing warfare for our entire recorded history. A representative from the Cathari spoke up. Her species had been integrated 50 years ago, but some had escaped to human space. But surely your leaders coordinate your military actions, Changmin smiled. Of course. But human leadership works differently. We don't give detailed orders. We give objectives and let our people figure out how to achieve them. He brought up a holographic display showing human military doctrine. A human commander might say, "Take that hill." How the soldiers take it is up to them. They might sneak around behind it, call in artillery, or charge straight up the front. The important thing is that the hill gets taken. This sounds like chaos, observed a tall, thin being from the Mordak Collective. To you, yes, Changmin agreed. But to humans, it's organized flexibility. We can adapt to changing situations faster than any centrally controlled force. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Jiwan Seo was making a discovery that would change the war forever. Deep in the captured Council databases, she found files that made her hands shake. "Sir," she called to Captain Seokjin over the comm. "You need to see this. I found the real Council archives." What she had discovered was the truth about the Council's expansion. They weren't conquerors in any traditional sense. They were something far worse. "Look at this," she said, bringing up species after species on her display. The Cathari were master engineers before integration. Now they can barely maintain basic technology. The Vorthak were philosophers and artists. Now they're mindless laborers. Seokjin studied the files with growing horror. They're not just conquering these species, they're lobotomizing them. It gets worse. Look at this. Psychological profiles of successful integrations. They're surgically removing the parts of alien brains that control creativity, independence, and aggression. The implications were staggering. The Council hadn't been building a galactic civilization. They had been creating a galaxy of brain-damaged slaves, all following the same mindless patterns. "Send this to Earth immediately," Seokjin ordered. "Everyone needs to know what we're really fighting." Captain Sang-Wook Yoon was seeing the results of Council integration firsthand. His strike team had just liberated Arcturus Station, a council re-education center. What they found there would haunt them forever. The station held thousands of beings from dozens of species. They all moved with the same slow, purposeful gait. They all spoke in the same monotone voice. They all had the same empty look in their eyes. What did they do to them? Whispered Corporal Min Seok Han. Dr. So-Jin Park, the team's medic, was scanning one of the integrated beings with her medical equipment. Surgical modification of the brain, she reported. They've removed the neural pathways responsible for independent thought. Sang-wook felt sick. These weren't conquered people. They were victims of the most horrific crime imaginable, the theft of their very minds. Can it be reversed? He asked. Dr. Park shook her head sadly. The damage is too extensive. These people will never be who they were again. That's when Sang-wook made a decision that would echo across the galaxy. He opened a channel to all human forces and broadcast what they had found. This is Captain Sang-wook Yoon calling all human defense forces. We have discovered the true nature of council integration. They are not conquerors. They are genocidal monsters who destroy the minds of entire species. The images from Arcturus Station spread through human space in minutes, then beyond to every species that had access to human communication networks. The reaction was immediate and explosive. Admiral In-sung Kim was coordinating the human response from the bridge of the battleship Defiance when the reports started coming in. Sir, his communications officer reported, we're getting contact requests from 47 different species. They're all asking the same thing, which is, they want to know if humans will help them fight the council. In-sung smiled grimly. This was what humanity had been waiting for. Not just the chance to defend themselves, but the chance to defend others. Open a channel to all requesting species, he ordered. When the channel opened, representatives from across the galaxy were watching. Some were from species that had never been contacted by the council. Others were refugees from worlds that had already fallen. All of them were afraid. People of the galaxy, In-sung began. Humanity has received your requests for aid. We want you to know that you are not alone in this fight. He paused, making sure he had everyone's attention. The council claims to bring peace and order, but we have seen their peace. We have seen their order. It is not civilization they offer. It is extinction, with extra steps. The response was immediate. Species after species pledged to join the fight against the council. Some offered ships and weapons. Others offered intelligence about council operations. A few offered something even more valuable, hope. Sir, his tactical officer reported, we're getting a priority transmission from High Inquisitor Thekvar. When Thekvar's image appeared on screen, he looked like a broken being. His skin had lost its color-changing ability and had settled into a dull gray. His golden eyes were dimmed with despair. You don't understand what you've done, he said. The council maintains order across the galaxy. Without us, there will be chaos. Admiral In-sung looked at him with something approaching pity. There was already chaos, Thekvar. You just hid it behind lobotomies and mass murder. The species we integrated were violent. They fought constant wars. Fighting is not the same as being evil, In-sung replied. You took away their right to choose their own path. You stole their minds and called it peace. Thekvar's image flickered with static. Around him, his ship was clearly falling apart. What will you do now? Rule the galaxy yourselves? In-sung shook his head. Humans don't want to rule anyone. We want to make sure no one can do what you did ever again. The transmission cut off, leaving In-sung staring at a blank screen. Around him, his bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency, coordinating the largest military alliance in galactic history. Sir, his communications officer said, we're receiving word that the last council stronghold has fallen. The war is over. In-sung nodded, but he felt no joy. They had won, but the cost had been enormous. Entire species would never recover from what the council had done to them. Send word to Earth, he said. Tell them it's time to build something better. The galaxy would never be the same, but for the first time in 1,000 years, it would be free.